Today, we're going to be heating up my steakhouse leftovers because everybody knows that steakhouse leftovers are better the second day. You go out to eat to a really nice steakhouse, they taste really good at the table, but the next day, they be slapping. So we're going to heat those up, and while we're eating those, we're going to talk about everything we need to buy a house. So I actually bought 2 houses in one tax year. Now, I sold one of them, but a lot of people were asking me, what did you do to get approved? How did you do it? And I'm going to share with you guys everything I did while I eat these steakhouse leftovers. Oh, by the way, you guys, make sure you're following me on all social platforms, but I am on Instagram every single day, Nina's 420 Life. This is where I collected you guys' questions that you guys asked about the housing process. So I got the questions and I'm going to pull them up while we heat up this food. Questions pulled up, and I have heated up my food. I heated up the bread too, because you know you got to take home the bread, child. The bread is very important. The very first step to looking for a property is to get pre-approved, because you're going to waste everybody's time, the realtor, your own, if you cannot get approved for a loan or if you don't have money for the property. Dang, those are good. Dang. So you're going to need to apply for a loan. Now, this goes for residential loans only, because if you're going to be renting out the property or commercial use, the loan requirements are different. Yo, these sweet potatoes are so good. So here's the thing. On the loan application, it's going to have like the normal stuff, name, address, social security. But then they're going to ask you to upload some documents, and they're going to ask you about your income. The documents they're going to ask you for are your last 2 years of tax returns. If you have a regular W-2 job, meaning you receive a W-2 every year with no additional income, then you're good. It's a very cut and paste process. You input your W-2s, pay your taxes, give them last 2 years taxes. If you have a non-conventional job or are self-employed, it's a little bit different, making sure that you're showing that you make enough money, your debt to income ratio. If you have a business, they're going to ask you for a profit and loss statement for the past 2 years. Sometimes they ask you for a balance sheet, but if you have, your taxes and your profit and loss, you should be good to go. If you have a lot of debt, you need to pay down that debt right now. And I talk about that a lot when it comes to qualifying for a house. But listen, there is no debt they won't find out about. When they check your credit, they're going to find out everything you owe, everything. If you owe $80,000 in student loans and you also make $80,000 a year, they're going to look at that debt to income ratio like, a little much. So pay down and pay off as much debt as you can before you apply for your home loan. I'm telling you, the taxes and debt really mess people up. These potatoes really are better the second day. The potatoes for sure better the second day. I feel like the asparagus is low-key better the second day too. The next thing they're going to ask you for, obviously, when they check your credit, they're going to find out your credit. Your credit is going to dictate if you are approved for the loan and at what rate you're going to be approved. Tier 1 credit is where you want to be. I want to say Tier 1 credit is like 700 and above. All right, so you got those 3 things. You're really strong in your home loan application. You don't have any judgments against you. Not bankrupt. You don't owe anybody child support, because that's going to go into your debt to income ratio. You got to factor these things too. Got to factor all that stuff in. If you don't know how to do it, make sure you study, look up YouTube, hire an accountant. There's so many things you can do out there to make sure you get your finances right. The resources are available. So you got your lender application done. And now you might say, how do I even find a lender? Most of the time, when you find a realtor, the realtor has a lender connect or a couple of references. So find you a realtor first, and then get you a lender through your trusted realtor. That's what I did both times. A lot of these realtors and lenders are working together and give each other kickbacks and stuff, but I am incentivized to work with lenders that way through realtors, because I know they already have a relationship and they're going to get it done faster. So whatever makes transactions stronger and more competitive, like, I'm down for. And you'll see why as we move into the rest of this video. You have your pre-approval letter and you have your down payment. How much should you put down for a down payment? Honestly, you guys, I feel like you guys should always save 20%, always, no matter what kind of financing you have, because, you know, there's a lot of different types of financing. There's conventional, there's VA, there's FHA, and, you know, each one has its own set of terms, but each property sometimes has its own set of terms and what kind of financing can be allowed. So if I were you, if you want to be competitive with your offers and you want what you want, you also better have enough money saved. That way you can get the right kind of financing that matches with the property. And also too, it's good to have 20% because nowadays you can get in at 10% or 15% down, but you're gonna need closing costs. You're gonna see unforeseen costs when you moved in, just like me spending $10,000 on the HVAC system the first month I moved in. And of course, I talked to you guys in my last video about how I'm already $40,000. Actually, I'm like $54,000 in on my renovations. So, you know, it's just good to have extra money because it's always gonna come down to you're gonna need more than what was simply saved for the down payment. Next step, you got your realtor. You guys are going out looking for homes together. That's the next step, step 2. Everything after this is kind of like you've already gotten the ball rolling, so there's not too much you can do about it. So you're gonna go and find your dream property with your realtor. Then you're gonna place an offer on the property. If your offer is accepted, then you begin the escrow process and you have, I believe it's 3 days to put your earnest money deposit down. The earnest money deposit is anywhere between 1 to 7% of the home value. When I got my offer accepted for this property at $560,000, the earnest money deposit was $18,000. So I had to have that money liquid immediately within 3 days to give to them to hold into escrow. Now this part would go towards my down payment, but I had to give it to them within 3 days. There is no waiting because, you know, every minute that it's off the market, that could have potentially gone to someone else. So you're messing with the market values by not having your money ready if you don't have that earnest money deposit within that 3 days. So you found your property, you got your offer accepted, or maybe you had a couple counter offers, but it's finally accepted. You put your earnest money deposit down after 3 days. Then this is when they start setting up all of your contingencies and the contingency removals. So for example, the next thing that you typically do is your home inspection. You want to get your home inspection taken care of immediately, because if anything's wrong and it affects the sale of the property or the deal that you're in, you need to know so you can get your money back before that earnest money deposit contingency is up. From this part of the process is, you know, like I said, all downhill because your realtor will help you through it. I am going to look through these questions finally. What if you haven't had a job / been self-employed, not have the down payment and credit? Okay, well, I just answered that. You're gonna have to either have cash or you're gonna have to have your credit and your down payment. Any advice for first-time home buyers? Definitely do not skimp on the saving 20% because you're gonna have some unforeseen costs. You're always going to have unforeseen costs. What was your credit score when you purchased? I went over that. What type of income monthly is sufficient for a bank statement? Okay, well, with renting, they're gonna be looking at your bank statements. If you're typically looking to buy a property, they're gonna look at your taxes. And then sometimes if you're self-employed, they will ask for your bank statement for that current tax year. A lot of people are asking me how much money is enough money, and it depends on the property that you're trying to buy. Now you just have to think about it. If you're trying to buy $1 million property and you don't have any money in the bank, if you're trying to buy a $500,000 property even, and you don't show that you make enough money to pay, these are things that you would have to talk to your lender about because everybody's situation is different. But for the most part, you gotta be putting your money in the bank and reporting your income in order to get to this part. Because I think the reason why a lot of people ask me is because I have a big dancer following, a big stripper following, a big creator following, and these are technically self-employed people. So you guys are asking me like, how much money should I put in the bank and how much money should I show? When, to be honest with you guys, I have always, I've never ever not put money in the bank. I've always claimed everything that I made. It starts with that. You kind of have to be honest, but you do have to have a strategy when it comes to your deductions and your expenses. And for that reason, get a good accountant. Get an accountant. A lot of you guys make a lot of money, especially self-employed, creators, OnlyFans girls, dancers, models. Make good money. Stop hiding it from the IRS and start doing the right things with it so that you don't have to hide it and you can get a little further because you're reporting that income. How to pick a location. That's a good one. This is a one that's a little different than the rest of the questions being asked. How to pick a location. If you're going to live in this house, you should like the location. You should like the area. You should be familiar with the area. If you're moving to a new place, you should live there for a year first. I used to work in Vegas, and that was the very first mistake I made, was thinking that just because I worked there meant that it was a good fit for me to live there, when it wasn't. I should have rented there first, and then I would have understood, okay, this is not the place for me to buy. At the end of the day, it worked out because I profited when I sold my house, but I ended up moving back to LA because this is what's home to me. So if you're gonna pick a location, pick a place you like and that you're freaking familiar with. Do not rush getting to know a location, because you're gonna be stuck in a place, in a mortgage, in a neighborhood, in a lifestyle that is not gonna benefit or serve you in any way if you rush it. There's another question on here: when to hire someone. So ideally, when you find your realtor and you ask them like, hey, do you have any lender references, and they give you your lender references, right then and there, you've hired your realtor. Now, if you end up not qualifying for a loan, they're not going to be upset. Most realtors understand because they deal with it every day. They're just going to wait for you to be able to qualify, and then they'll help you when you're ready. Looks like I answered everybody's questions, so I'm loving these types of YouTube videos. Please make sure, once again, you follow me on all social media platforms. All my links will be in the description bar. Make sure you follow me on OnlyFans too if you're here for that type of content. But until the next time, you guys, can't wait. And if you watch this video to the very end, comment little house emojis.